one of the booming sectors and very relevant sectors for the industry. On behalf of the national body, ISBA, and I am very pleased and humbled to welcome all of you. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Suresh Kumar, our Honorable President and our champion who has been steering this initiative and bringing the All India incubation centers together. We have over 150 incubators along with us, and it was a personal honor to attend the ISBA Governing Council meet and the annual AGM at Chennai recently, which was chaired by the Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Mr. M.K. Stalin. So I, Sumir Walia, the Governing Council member of the board at ISBA, take this honor to introduce everybody and also welcome each one of you. So may I have the honor to welcome Mr. Parmeswaram Narayanan, Senior Director, Engineering at Train Technologies, Bangalore, Karnataka, the hub of innovation, the hub of startups and stalwarts. Respected sir, heartiest welcome to join for joining in this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sumir.
Thank you. And Dr. Parmeswaram is also our moderator of the session, so we'll be further taking the session up forward. It is my honor to welcome Mr. Arindam, who is the Global Key Account Manager for South Asia, one of the global conglomerate and UL India Private Limited, Bangalore. And it is such an honor to look forward to have his views, what his thoughts are on the topic of discussion. Welcome, Mr. Arindam Mandal. Thank you very much for joining us for this session.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Looking forward to share my thoughts with all of you. Yeah.
Thank you. From the vibrant state of Gujarat, we have an entrepreneur who's the founder and director at Qualisys, Ahmedabad, Gujarat, Tapesh Gautam. Tapesh, thank you very much for joining us and sparing your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the invite, and we look forward for a very interesting discussion on the subject. Thank you.
It is an honor, and once again, I thank Dr. Vishwanathan at ISBA and also our president, Dr. Suresh Kumar, for joining us this afternoon for the session and giving this opportunity to welcome our honorable guests. Entrepreneurship in India has taken a tremendous scale, and the kind of motivation which has been brought by the by the central government is phenomenal, and then further it went down to the state governments, and we could see how the states are competing with each other in prospering and bringing models around developing entrepreneurship in different states. One could see that very much physically. Just a day or two before, I was at the launch of T-Hub 2, which is in the national news and the global news. And it was an honor to see that a lot of our incubator heads from Kerala Startup Mission, from Gujarat, from Mumbai, Maharashtra, Pune, Dr. Ashish Garde, and a lot of friends from our ISBA member fraternity were there. And it was an honor to see how ISBA has played a very key role in setting a very strong foundation on the understanding of how incubation centers and incubators and accelerators are the key drivers to build entrepreneurship in this country and entrepreneurs. So with that note, I pass it on to Dr. Parmeswaram Narayanan to steer the session and moderate the session. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining in today.
Thank you, Dr. Sumir. Thank you very much, Dr. Suresh, for this opportunity to participate in this today's proceedings. And I welcome all the participants for this meeting. Once again, I welcome on behalf of the organizers, the speakers, Mr. Tapesh Gautam and Arindam, to speak on the EMC compliance for ESDM. So it's been, yesterday Suresh was talking to me like, Param, can you please join in this proceedings? So I was very excited to be part of this proceedings and, share my 2 cents and as well listen very keenly to what Tapesh and Arindam are going to bring from the technology space and as well as from testing space. Thank you everyone, and welcome you all again to this short panel discussion for maybe, I think it's going to be around 90 minutes. Can I take it as somewhere around 90 minutes for the overall panel discussion? So let me introduce the subject of EMI, EMC for ESDM. So as you all know, like, to be very simple, any unintended emission from any electrical or electronic products in the frequency range of 0.5 megacycles to 5 gigahertz, almost 4 order of frequency band, is called EMI, electromagnetic interference. Be it in a residential environment, commercial environment, or an industrial environment. Today we are sitting at a digital data evolution and industry 4.0, wherein we see that the of electrical products in our residences, in the commercial spaces, on the road, on the vehicle, on the commercial offices, and more so like the industry 4.0 triggering like industry automation, and lot of control systems are required for that. So with all these products, you would see that unintended emission coming from each product. No product actually, I would say that it is an inevitable emission from each and every electrical product, electrical electronics product, be it a small mixer grinder machine at home in our kitchen, to that of commercial product like like today's car. I got dozens of electrical electronic gadgets, automation gadgets. So each of them are going to have unintended emission, and they could interfere with the functioning of other equipment in vicinity through shared cable harness. It could be through shared cable harness or through radiated means. It's just the space. So that's where it becomes very important, and at this juncture, to address this issue, how do we ensure EMC compliance for ESDM? So there are specific standards, generic standards, country-specific standards, application-specific standard, and OE standards. Like OE, like when I say OE, vehicle manufacturers like Ford, GM, they have their own standards for EMC compliance. And the product is, every product we develop for the customer, the end consumer, should not only create interference, but also should have a ability to be compatible in the presence of known emission limits. So we call it as electronic, we call it at EMC, electromagnetic compatibility. Without much dwelling into the topic, because I know like Tapesh and Arindam are having wide experience and they have a lot of things to share. So I would straight away introduce the speakers, Tapesh and Arindam. And I'm not sure, Sumer, if you want to share your thoughts after the two speakers. Yes, you can do if you have sufficient time. Shouldn't be we will all will be enlightened by your sharing your experience. So Tapesh, Gautam, and Arindam have got wide experience in EMC, and today they are going to enlighten on this topic. So I would call on Tapesh Gautam first. Tapesh Gautam has got to introduce him, is has got a wide experience in EMC testing, EMC evaluation, and EMC compliance. He has expertise in EMC test system integration, EMC analysis, troubleshooting, or analysis, lab management, technology training. He has been involved in training on this subject, and he has specialization in RF, microwave, and other areas. Tapesh is a
I think some connection issue with Parmeshwaran sir.
I think, yeah, but I think you may like to, share their
Right,
thoughts.
sir. So thank you very much for this opportunity, sir. And I think this is one of the most happening topics, also a nightmare if you look it from the other side of the table. But it's something which is EMI/EMC slowly in the last 10-15 years has gained lot of traction actually in the electrical and electronics engineering ecosystem and community. Now, I just take some time to establish the perspective why this has happened and also why, I mean, suddenly we find EMI/EMC almost everywhere. If you see, I take an example from the field of aircraft. In long back, when we had during World War II or World War One, not one but two actually, there were aircrafts which were predominantly mechanical, and the electrical and electronic sub-assemblies and components were limited. But as the electrical and electronic sub-assemblies started to become a predominant part of the whole ecosystem, you see, we saw the evolution of a new field, which is avionics, which is a hybrid of predominantly lot of electrical uh, engineering as well as also overlapping with the aviation engineering and mechanics actually. So similarly, in EMI/EMC earlier, when we had mainly electrical circuits, electrical components, the control elements were limited. Also, the application of electrical and electronic products was limited, and also the nature of problems and the nature of applications were limited. So as this field diversified, we had three principal contributing elements. One is that the packing density of the components increased. Second, the data transfer rates became higher. And third, the electrical and electronic equipment are now used in places it was never envisaged earlier to be used in those places. So these three new changes relatively uh, created lot of multiple scenarios where failures, problems, and issues started to come in the field of electrical and electronics. Uh, Also, now we see that we are moving from an age of wired stuff to wireless stuff. So there's nothing which is becoming wired. I mean, in all engineering disciplines, smart is almost now analogous with the term wireless. So
Right.
we are moving towards more and more wireless future, which also creates lot of electromagnetic scenarios further. So you can well imagine that with so many contributing variables now suddenly on the spectrum, the conventional uh, discipline of electrical testing was subdivided into few different disciplines. Mainly, I would cite two, which is electrical safety and EMI/EMC. So, in old school jargon, EMI/EMC was a subset of electrical safety. Still, in certain workflows, it is perceived as electrical safety test, but functionally, from standards perspective, on which Arindam will highlight further, EMI/EMC is a separate discipline now altogether. The interesting part about EMI/EMC is that what I think Parmeswaran sir said earlier, that earlier it was limited to a frequency range of 5 gigahertz or so. But now, when we talk EMI/EMC, the good and the bad part about EMI/EMC is we are talking about a band from 20 hertz to 40, 50 gigahertz.
Right.
So if you see this band of 20 hertz to 50 gigahertz, it actually covers all communication engineering. So the instrumentation that is used to test and to validate in EMI/EMC laboratory basically has a representative of each branch of communication engineering. So when you go to a EMC lab, you will find everything related from 20 hertz sensor to 50 gigahertz antenna. That's one aspect. The other aspect is that while we know that the thermal noise floor, which is theoretically the limited, the level beyond which measurement is not possible because of internal electronic noise, is typically minus 174 dBm, and we are having receivers and spectrum analyzers now which are measuring up to minus 166, minus 168 dBm.
Right.
So this is something which is pretty sensitive. It is as sensitive as it gets from sensitivity point of view. On the other hand, we have very high power transmitters like the FM transmitters, which are 1 kilowatt FM transmitters we see in FM radio stations. In EMC lab, we use those transmitter amplifiers for some of the tests. So from high power perspective, also EMI EMC covers the entire spectrum. So if I visualize x-axis as power and y-axis as frequency, we are covering from minus x to plus x and from minus y to plus y, the complete spectra of things. So that makes EMC pretty interesting, cutting edge, and also a challenge depending upon the area of work we are in. The other problem or the other aspect related to EMI EMC which most of the designers face is that EMC is highly interdisciplinary. This is so if let us say there is a software problem that exists in isolation, you would be going to the compiler using expertise, but the framework will be established which is related to the software. But when we talk about an EMI/EMC problem, it ranges from a wrong code in software to a wrong cable to a wrong USB connector to a wrong aspect ratio of the device under test. So anything to anything can have an impact on the EMI/EMC scenario. That's why the good thing is that for all complicated EMC problems, we usually say that there are very simple EMC solutions. But to troubleshoot and to reach to that level of solution is the main challenge. So this, yeah.
No, I think it's very structuredly and very clinically you have done this narrative and touched upon very critical points. So maybe once you finish, and then we'll request Arindam to add on, the points.
Yes. So this is one aspect where because of which we are it is something like which often happens with the subject of electromagnetic itself, that when we are studying let us say Java, or when we are studying C++, then we know that there is a Dennis Ritchie book or a compendium, and if we establish the expertise in it, at least we will have a certain level of minimum expertise in that language. But when we talk of EMI/EMC class, we don't know whether we should study the field theory, the filter theory, the mathematics, the calculus of EMC, the antenna theory, radar, microelectronics. EMC seems to be everywhere, and there is nothing that directly points to EMC. So that way, that is one of the major contribution of the standards, that for such an interdisciplinary subject, standards have created a good framework of classification of knowledge, classification of problem statements, and also classification of a roadmap of solution. And that's why if I were to summarize, I would say that standards form the backbone of all contextual knowledge in EMI EMC currently. So that's the backbone of the industry. Now, coming from that perspective, there's another aspect added to it. We are having lot of earlier electromagnetic energy in defense was never treated as a weapon system. Electromagnetic energy was mainly handled by signals unit. So it was treated as at most as a part of signal intelligence. And to some extent, radars were there, which were considered as auxiliary instrumentation related to EMI EMC, related to microwave, but they were not a weapon system in isolation or in themselves. But now with the advent of warfare, which is the electromagnetic warfare, which is the projection of the existing EW, which is the electronic warfare. Now we see lot of weapon systems which are dedicated to proactive use of electromagnetic energy, and then it implicatively means that we have to make lot of defense systems to handle that kind of attack. So a totally new field has come up in form of the EM warfare, and now again in that field the backbone is the EMC industry. So if you see lot of EM weapons, their design motivation basically is from the EMC test and measurement instruments. You see lot of defense systems in EM scenario, they are all from let us say the shielded anechoic chamber kind of a perspective. So largely this is another major area, and from where we see the third and most important, which is the RF engineering, which is the communication engineering. So if you see all these 5G communication testing, 4G communication, etc., near field, Bluetooth, low power Bluetooth, Zigbee, all these topologies, they are also diversifying into their frequency band of operation. So earlier when we were talking about 4G, we were talking about somewhere between 700, 800, 1600, 1800 kind of band, 2.4 gigahertz ISM, 5.4. But now with 5G, there is a country that is working on 12 gigahertz. The other countries under technology in 5G is, let us say, I'm just giving an example, not the exact frequencies, but let us say there is other frequency country which is working on 24 gigahertz. So sky is the limit now. That entry barrier of frequency is also broken to large extent. So that again creates more EMC issues and scenarios. And this perspective I established, maybe if Arindam wants to also supplement with some perspective on standards, I will be grateful, and then we continue on how this maps to the startup ecosystem. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tapeshji. May I also request Dr. Vishwanathan to join in? I hope he's there. Okay, may I request Arindam ji to start his own thoughts and share with the August audience, and also sort of give his viewpoint on how and the way Tapesh ji has mentioned various sectors and the variation and in the entire industry and the kind of disruption it is facing.
Yeah. So a very good afternoon to all of you. I'm Arindam, and I represent a company called UL, and I'm the Global Key Account Manager in this particular company. So from what Tapesh has said so far, I think the biggest challenge today with the EMC sector is either the immunity or the emission, right? So probably I would take a step back to talk about compliance in general, right? So because in today's world, everything is connected, right? From your home automations, where by clicking digit on your phone, maybe you can open a smart door, right? you can control, a car through your mobile phone today. And this also brings us to many other technologies which is related to cyber security, interface testing, and many others. So I have a short presentation to talk about compliance in general, and then we take things forward from that. So just a moment, let me share my screen.
Okay.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this will be great for your presentation.
Yeah, yeah. So, so the question today is why compliance, right? So, why is compliance important today? So, we take a step back, understand why are things like compliance, regulations important for a particular country and its. So, in the recent years, you must have seen that or heard of cases where there are batteries which are getting affected because of use of mobile phones excessively. And in the recent studies, we have seen a lot of EVs, catching fire because of various issues, be it battery, the design, or things like that. But what does it all bring us to, and what does it us there would be a proper management of product compliance and the processes. What does it do? It enables you to save time, reduce costs, and mitigate risks. So for a brand today, it is important that they, bring the product uh, at the earliest to the market, beat competition in terms of, you know, uh, establishing their brand to in terms of reducing costs. That is where compliance plays a very big role, right? In any part of the world. So in the Western world, of course, they are much more advanced, but even to countries like India, it is becoming equally important, right? Hence, product compliance means that there is a evidence that the product meets the essential requirements in form of directives, regulation, and harmonized standards. Now, how does this get implemented? Most of the compliance needs across the globe gets implemented through what is called as standards. And these standards are derived by various bodies across the globe. And in India, one of the biggest and the oldest, standard bodies is the BIS. BIS stands for Bureau of Indian Standards. So one of the first programs that came into the picture was the ISI program for a lot of products today. So what does BIS do? BIS certification basically permits the license holders to use the ISI marking standard on the products. If you see on the right hand side on the top, you would see a ISI mark, and it is a very well-known mark today, right? You would see this on water bottles, on electronic products, kitchen appliances, and things like that. So the ISI mark is one of the oldest program in India, and it is well accepted. And it also comes with the inspection piece after the uh, product certification is done, where a BIS inspector goes to a particular manufacturer to check if they comply by a particular standard, right? And which are these products that get covered? It is all our household products like kitchen appliances, electric motors, cement, LPG valves, LPG cylinders, automotive tires, to name a few, right? And how does the mark look? The mark uh, is here on top, and it all starts with the symbol IS, which is the Indian standards, followed by the standard number, and the XX denotes the license number for a particular manufacturer. Moving forward, BIS also came up with
Just lose your voice in between. So if you can just set it, yeah.
better now.
Say it again.
Is that better? Am
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah. And we are also joined back by Dr. Parmeswar.
okay? So that brings us to another compliance requirement by BIS, which is called the compulsory registration scheme. And this scheme was brought in the year 2012 and implemented in 2013. So the government of India, through Department of Electronics and IT along with BIS came up with this particular scheme, which introduced 30 plus electronic products. The initial list was limited to 15, and there were 15 more products added eventually. And today there are 63 products which are part of this particular list. The products here again include laptops, mobile phones, CCTV cameras, amplifiers, battery packs, LED modules, and things like that. And each of these products have a different standard that they have to comply by, right? So manufacturers, they have to get their product tested by a accredited body, a BIS accredited body, and as per the BIS standards. And once they receive the test reports from the labs, then they move on to BIS to get a BIS registration number, with which they print this BIS logo along with the number on their product, and then they are allowed to import into the country. So this is applicable for the importers, traders, manufacturers, brands, and whoever does business and who sell these products in India. Moving forward, Telecom Engineering Center, which is TEC, has brought in a new regulation which is called the MTCTE, or Testing and Certification. So TEC has come up with essential requirements. Basically, essential requirements are the technical regulations provided by TEC, and it covers a framework. So what all does it cover? The main aspects are safety, electromagnetic interference, EMI, EMC, technical requirements, which includes RF testing, security testing, and these are all denoted by the Department of Telecom, right? So today there are close to around 55 products that have been mandated by TEC, and they are already being tested in various labs in India. And initially this program was brought in with an understanding that international test reports will be accepted. But moving forward, most of these products are mandated to be tested in laboratories in India. So what is happening is India as a region is gaining a lot of importance, because all of these manufacturers who are doing business in India are allowed to bring in a much greater presence in terms of standardization, in terms of regulation and compliance, right? Some of these products that are getting tested in various labs includes routers, switches, base stations, mobile switching devices, and many more. And recently, there was another regulation which was brought into being, which was called the drone certification, or the UAS, which is called the unmanned aircraft system. So I will probably take a minute to introduce what are the different kinds of drones that are getting tested, and how are they classified, right? So there are 5 different types of drones in today's world, and they are nano, which weighs from 0 to 250 grams. There is a micro drone, which weighs more than 250 grams to 2 kgs. There are small drones which weigh between 2 to 25 kgs. Medium drones which weigh between 25 to 150 kgs of weight, and large drones which are more than 150 kgs of weight. So in this regulation, the drones which are used in our lives, in terms of the ones which are used for commercial use, like for weddings, are exempted, and the ones which are listed here are covered as part of this particular regulation. Now, how does a manufacturer apply or get a drone certification? So they have to go on to the Digital Sky platform, apply for the Form D1. Once verified, they pass on this information to the accredited laboratory by DGCA or QCI, and which is called a Quality Control of India. And then it gets evaluated and tested in the lab for various factors. It gets tested for safety, it gets tested for EMI, EMC, it gets the batteries get tested for compliance as per BIS standards. So that is when a lot of other regulations also come into the picture to ensure that their critical components are equally certified. Now, why is EMI, EMC compliance important? Is because it ensures that this particular drone system does not either interfere with any other system, or it also does not emit any particular unintended frequency that can cause harm, or it can create any communication interface. Once this is done, once the testing is completed, then a manufacturer is allowed and granted a certificate. In fact, recently there was the first drone which was certified in India, and it was also celebrated by the Prime Minister of India. And moving forward, we also see a lot of manufacturers who are startups who are moving into drone technology, manufacturing of drones, because that's going to be the future for us, right? Talking about standardization and regulation, there are multiple bodies which govern standardization and regulations in across the globe. So one of the biggest regulators are the standard body is the IEC, which is the Electrotechnical Committee. They define standards for various products. So if I have to give you an analogy, uh, certification is more like a visa that is required for humans to travel. So for example, if you have to go to the US, you would require a US visa. If you go to Europe, you would require a Shenzhen visa. Similarly, for any product that is sold in a particular market, it would require a certification which as per the law of that particular land, right? So if you have to sell a product today to the US, you would require a UL certification, you would require a FCC certification, which is to do with EMI, EMC. You would require, for Europe, you would require a safety, EMC, and ROHS. In India, for the products listed, you would require a BIS, a TEC, or a drone certification, depending upon the kind of product that you're talking about. Right? So I would probably just take 2 more minutes to explain what we do in UL India, which is Underwriters Laboratories. We are a 128-year-old company, and we are present in more than 110 countries across the globe. We have written more than 2,000 standards, and we have multiple brands that we work with across for multiple industries. We cut across consumer technology, medical products, wind turbine testing, payment gateways, cyber security. So anything that you see in and around you in an office space is something that we can test and certify today. So we started off way back in the year 1997 in India, and we have built labs in India, in Bangalore, and now. And today, there's a world-class lab that we have in Bangalore, which takes care of industrial testing, consumer product testing, garments testing, toys testing, lighting products that can be tested. So for the ESDM cluster, all that is required in terms of component testing can actually be supported by us here in India. So the spectrum of services that we offer includes cybersecurity, interoperability products, EMI, EMC, RF. We do verification and validation of different kind of products. We can offer global market access services for different markets. So if you have to launch a product in multiple countries at the same time, we can do all of that from itself. We can support customers with energy efficiency, safety testing. We also provide training and advisory on multiple regulations and standards, be it either EMI, EMC, safety, cybersecurity, or anything like that. So we have a 3-meter chamber, anechoic chamber that we have set up here in Bangalore. And this is in the Whitefield area, and it is recognized by BIS and TEC. So if you experience this particular chamber, you can come down for a pre-compliance testing. We can help you with that. Or if you want a certification for your product, we can support you with that too. And we have a world-class lab for safety certification, where we can do certification for your mobile phones, laptops, printers, scanners, your medical devices, and all of that. And all of that is in India today. You do not have to look for a lab which is outside India in terms of testing for safety, EMC, and we are here for you for that. So in any kind of advisory or training that you would require, you can reach out to us, and we can support you with that. Over to you, Sumit.
Yeah. This drone certification, meantime, Arindam, before Mr. Sumir and moderator takes over, I just had a curiosity. This drone certification, is it related only to the EMI, EMC aspects of the drone, say electrical safety or aspect of the drone, or also related to the authorization of operation? Because I understand there is some requirement related to you need to be permitted to be using a drone. Uh, so does it also validate some kind of a local government parameter also to do it, or how is it actually?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, drone certification includes three aspects. One is safety, the second is EMI, EMC, and it also talks about environmental requirements. With
Mm.
this, there's something called as NPNT, which is no permission, no takeoff, right? So
Okay.
this allows only certified drones to be allowed to fly in a particular zone, right? So moving forward, only the certified drones will be allowed to fly with this particular permission from DGC.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So comparatively, drone technology is new. We see a lot of startups investing their time, efforts, and their investment into drones, and it is used in various industries and applications today, right from defense to agriculture to delivery of equipment and groceries. We have talked about. We have seen a lot of new, grocery delivering companies who are talking about using drone, for delivering their products today, right? So moving forward, we would definitely see a lot of intervention on usage of our day-to-day lives. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that way now, even for transport and commercial, this is going to be a huge challenge. Actually, we are already seeing some of the unauthorized drone activity some places. So testing that way definitely helps. Actually, yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh,
So, when you uh, from your experience, what are the different challenges that you generally see in EMI, EMC when you talk to clients and when they come to you? So what are the different challenges that you generally see where products generally require your advisory or they require your expertise?
So, from my I think I will share also a brief presentation probably, because this forum is related to a lot of startups and startup incubation ecosystem. I think this is something which is quite, important to see how this pans out, the testing pans out in our local engineering ecosystem, and what are the challenges faced out. by the startups, and I think in that flow we'll also address the main challenges related to EMI/EMC. So I just take 5 minutes, if the moderator permits, then to present this thing actually. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So I hope the screen is visible, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So if let us take a use case of somebody is starting up a new company in one of the main areas of interest, which is like, let us say, something like e-mobility or autonomous vehicle or components related to smart grid or wearable tech, smart homes, efficient lighting, microsatellites, electronic warfare. So, by the way, these are all the happening areas where all the startups now intend to. This is quite a vibrant ecosystem as far as these new areas of engineering are concerned. And in those areas, we have, let us say, one Mr. Raj plans to start up, and he does his market research in the emerging markets, and then he decides to.
Tapesh, Suresh here. Whether you have any network challenges?
Sorry, uh, hello, hello.
Yeah, is there any network challenges?
No, I think just the frame is frozen. I'll resume once
Okay,
again. I hope I'm audible, sir. Hello.
you are audible.
Okay. So, probably- yeah, now it works. So, if you see now, as this use case process, he decides after his market research that he wants to have a product in telemedicine sensor category, and then he is what would be the first thing that he would do? He would generally start product specification, then he would start doing some R&D, then he will create a sample or a prototype. Actually, this is very important that he starts doing the EMI/EMC visualization to some extent from this stage itself, because the challenge we face is that lot of design work is already done before people realize that there is a EMI/EMC issue that may be uh, happening, and because of that, we also feel there is a lot of design work that needs to be undone. So from that perspective, we are having this, let us say, when he does make the first prototype and does a preliminary testing, at that stage itself, it is good idea to do the EMI/EMC test. Why I'm saying this is because other tests are also important, but EMI/EMC, which we discussed in the earlier part of the session, that it is an interdisciplinary issue. So because of that, it is important to have a sensitization towards the potential EMI/EMC issues from start itself. So let us say the gentleman does some develop a prototype. Then after that, again, there is a major challenge: how much effort versus how much result we can get from EMI/EMC energy investment. So it's a cost benefit analysis. I mean, ideally, you can set up a whole EMI/EMC lab or just start doing certification from day one, but largely depending upon your workflow, your project management approach, you have to find out what is the cost benefit analysis and how much you can invest, or whether you should outsource the EMI/EMC testing initially or have in-house developing. So this is sort of a techno-commercial decision also, that how much of infrastructure you intend to develop, invest, or outsource for EMI/EMC problem mitigation and management. Now, finally, when you are ready with your prototypes, then what do our this in case study, what does the gentleman do? Now he has a whole set of tests to be done, where there are material durability tests, there are product specific tests, and there are characteristic tests. Under the category of characteristic test, he has general performance test, environmental test, electrical safety test, and electromagnetic compatibility test. And in electromagnetic compatibility also, depending upon whether he belongs to automotive industry, electrical, the consumer electronics, lighting, industrial, scientific, medical, IT, military, is a different set of tests that are applicable to your device. So those set, somebody like UL you can approach, and they can help you make the test plan for those tests. And once the tests are ready, you can get the test done. Now, one major issue is, if let us say the customer is lucky and the EMC test pass in the first go itself. Now, then it's very good. But generally it doesn't happen. It is typically an industry norm that about 60% of the devices, 50 to 60% typically, would generally fail their first EMC test. So even if it's even if it is not a big issue, then they will still fail. There's a high probability. Now the whole question comes that when the device fails, there is a panic sometimes, because the lab may not be assisting you in solving the problem. They can give some opinion in goodwill, all right, but generally one common perception is that the lab should help in solving the problem. But as per some of the quality standards like ISO 17025, it would be considered as a perceived conflict of interest if and a compromise on objectivity if the lab that is testing is also in the same workflow or process is helping to solve the problem. So that may also, from a process point of view, be perceived as a bias actually. I so from where I see, that's something which is a big gap currently we are facing in India. And there are many people who may solve the problem or claim to solve, but the accountability in opinion or the quantification of solution doesn't exist. There are a lot of maybes in this area. So generally, to all the startups, what we recommend is that if they are doing a lot of in-house development work, not necessarily system integration, but in-house development, then it is always recommended that they should have in-house competency. This will help them in long run to make excellent products related to EMI/EMC, and also at the same time they will be able to figure out and solve problems quickly. Because at that moment, if you depend upon some third party to solve the problem, generally the third party can help you to the extent to tell what exactly is the problem. Solution of the problem should generally come from internal design teams, because they are more well versed with the changes in multiple aspects of the design. For example, changing a component can solve a EMC issue but create a thermal issue. So that is why there is no easy solution to this. It is always recommended that some in-house competency is developed by new companies for EMI/EMC as well. And yeah, and generally when they solve, you can see there is a huge which we were discussing, that because now almost all the bands are under some kind of a viable communication topology, the whole issue of EMI/EMC becomes very important, because if your device, you may feel that your device is encroaching only one few frequencies here and there, but the retrospective penalty for encroaching those frequencies can be huge, because now most of the bands are commercialized actually. Yeah. So yeah, just I wanted to come back to your point, Arindam, that what are the challenges being faced? Probably out of the many, if I have to select one main challenge that everybody is facing, is what do you do when the device fails? Because should you depend upon in-house expertise? Because in other tests like environmental and all, generally the problem is solved by replacement of compliant component. So all you have to do is to find a component and a vendor who is compliant, and that solves the problem. But when it comes to uh, electrical safety or EMI/EMC, it is a little bit more interdisciplinary, and that's something where we need to improve actually internally. Yeah.
Thank you, Tapesh. I think Mr. Parmeshwaran has joined back. He had some technical issues in between. Mr. Parmeshwaran,
Yeah,
over to you.
I apologize that I went suddenly off the air and my mobile phone crashed, and I just borrowed system from my neighbor and started logging in. It was interesting presentation from Arindam. He was talking about drone, and I like the way Tapesh presented as a as a product one wants to go and do a design. What are all things he is expected to do and all that. Yes. So in a nutshell, like electromagnetic compliance for any product is required, depends on the product categorization, whether it's a residential product or it's a commercial product or a military product. So different types of standards come into play. And Tapesh was mentioning about various tests. He has put one presentation in which one slide in which he has described all the type of tests that are required to be done on the product. So I wouldn't put it in a discouraging note, but rather I would put it in an encouraging note that all these standards have to be complied with, and any product, whether it's a startup designed by a startup or designed by an established company, it is quite possible, and it is very much possible to design the product to work correctly and as well as to meet all those requirements in the first place. So we have to have the appropriate process and system in place, the design reviews in place. Even Tapesh has got a good experience in EMC review and analysis. So those systems and processes have to be triggered in at the time of the design itself, so that when you develop the prototype of the product, you don't have to have the dilemma of whether the product is going to meet the requirements. Yes, you do need to have a certain amount of benchmark bench test capabilities, like Tapesh was mentioning, few testing capabilities in-house, so that while you are designing the product, you are able to quickly verify whether this product is likely to meet the compliance requirements. So once you know that the product is well designed, and as Arindam was mentioning, like EL has gotten a well-established EMC facility with a 3-meter chamber and things like that. So you can take to any of these test houses. There are a few test houses available almost in every city, almost in every big cities in India. We have in Bangalore, UL has got the facility, Wipro has got the facility in Mumbai, Samir has got the facility in Chennai, Samir has got facilities. Almost in every city you have EMI, MC test facilities. You can go and do the testing and make sure that the product complies with the specifications concerned to that specific product category. And then actually, of course, the certification is a very big topic to be covered up in this brief discussion. It will be too vast. Depending on which country you are marketing the product, and which type of product it is. It's a residential product or a commercial product, or it's a vehicle product. Different types of standards will come into play, and you have to find out first what are all the tests that are required to be carried out, and what are all the compliances that you need to get before you can launch this product into the market. That becomes very, very important. Once again, I apologize. I couldn't start the proceedings in the right way. And I hope you have listened to both Arindam and Tapesh. Sumir, you had mentioned at the beginning when you were doing welcome address, you have some few points. Would you like to share here before the forum, Sumir?
Before that, Mr. Parmeshwaran, there is a question from the audience side
Okay.
to show to throw some light on the EV testing, right, electric vehicle testing, and its certification. Some insights that the participants have asked for. Tapesh or Arindam can take this question and give some insights on.
So Arindam is the best person, sir, I think, for EV actually. Yeah.
So, so when it comes to EV testing, of course, there are multiple parts to the whole ecosystem. So there is a EV charger, there is a EV battery, or there are components, right? So components, of course, have a particular standard that they have to comply by. And even for EV chargers, there's a standard today, which is present, right? So there are multiple manufacturers in India who are manufacturing these chargers. So in case you have some requirements in terms of testing these chargers or these industrial batteries, you can definitely come to us, reach out to me or to our company, and we can support you with that. So generally, the large size batteries, the ones which are mentioned in BIS is mainly the portable batteries, the ones which are used in your mobile phones or laptops. But for larger batteries, the testing is comparatively is a little more complex, and we have test facilities across the globe for this. So there are standards defined again. It again depends upon which markets, like Mr. Parmeshwaran mentioned. So you'll have to define that very clearly. Based on that, you'll have to design the product and meet the required standards. So for any further support, you can definitely reach out to us. Yes.
In fact, one important thing is that in EV, the nowadays the philosophy of test also matters more than the merely meeting the compliance, because it's a new field and there are so many scenarios that the standards are still catching up to. So for EV, it is like it is always recommended also to have threshold testing apart from the certification, so we know exactly what is the quality of the product and have more confidence in it actually, just to add on that point actually. Yeah.
Thank you, Arindam and Tapesh. Over to you, Parmeshwaran, sir.
Yeah. So any other questions for the speakers?
Uh, it's a generic question from my side on behalf of the startups being incubated in various incubation centers. because Tapesh would have been working, and Arindam would have been working closely with various technologies and various startups or products, right? My question is, to what extent the startups has awareness about the EMI/EMC testing and certifications, and are they prepared for it? And if so, Tapesh has mentioned about the challenges, right? The EMI problem would have been addressed, but the thermal issue will arise, right? Um, so if that is the case, what kind of preparedness that startup should be while designing the product, technology wise as well as on the budget wise?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Suresh. Yeah, it's very important for the designer to know the requirements, from the product generic requirements, and also the standard requirements, that's applicable for the product. And I'm definitely share the same concern as what you have with respect to how much of awareness the designers are having at this point of time. If I were to say based on my experience, prior experience, a couple of decades back, the awareness had been very, very rusty and very, very less. But today, I think with the data explosion and internet opening up, people do have awareness about people can quickly assemble what are all the requirements, EMC requirements, be it an EMC requirement or environmental requirements or even these functional safety requirements. It may not be so difficult for the even a startup or an entrepreneur to find out those requirements. The key is, like as Tapesh was mentioning, how do I go about in doing the design? Definitely we cannot be building the product, testing the product, whether it is meeting the requirements, and once again go to the design board and modify your design, and repeated iteration of testing. So we don't have time for that iteration, and we need to quickly bring the product to the market. So that is where concurrent engineering concepts have to be followed, or the design for compliance processes have to be followed. I can help to some extent by consolidating all those, and put together a document or a white paper and what are all the things people should take. But yes, definitely it asks for a very comprehensive engineering effort or a policy thinking at the beginning of the product development cycle itself, so that once the product is developed, and if the product doesn't meet the requirement, it is going to cost a lot of money, effort, and time. And to make this product work again, or make this product compliant to specific requirement. Yes, as far as awareness of standards is concerned, I think that is possible. I think UL is conducting a lot of training programs about various EMC standards, and one can get into those trainings, and they can get themselves apprised of all those standards. But the key gap, what I feel, is the design space. How do I design the product such that my product is going to meet this specific requirement in the first go? That's a sort of a challenge we all designers do have. Even established companies like us, we do face this challenge of doing first time right. And that's something like very comprehensive design process has to be evolved and put in place, so that 99% probability that the first time right we are able to get in terms of meeting all the requirements.
Thank you, Parmeshwaran and Tapesh, for the detailed answer on it, and also Arindam. One more question from the audience side. In case of medical device development, at which stage should we do EMI/EMC compliance test? And what happens? There is no electric circuit not involved in the device.
If electric circuit is not involved, generally EMI/EMC will not be applicable, sir. Yeah, and as per there is a dedicated standard for medical devices that can be that is followed only for certain stipulations of electric circuit. The EMI/EMC is applicable. Without that, it is not applicable. And to do the test, I would suggest that you should do if it's a wired device, then a conducted emission, radiated emission immunity, and ESD. These four tests one should start ruggedizing the device for these four tests right from start, and the other test eventually at final stage, the probability of failure will be less. But these are the most important tests for medical devices are ESD, radiated emission, conducted emission, and also conducted susceptibility. These five tests, they should do it as early as possible in the design cycle to have a data on which improvement can be built upon.
Also, to add to that, generally the medical standard for safety will be IEC 61010. That's the global standard for safety, and EMC, like Tapish mentioned. However, if you have to comply by the standard, it is very important that the designers read through the standard and design as per that, right? So small things like the creepage clearance, the distance between two components uh, that are mounted on the PCB. These things are very important. The quality of plastic that is used, the flammability grading, right? You have the V1, V2, V3, V0, V0 being the best quality of plastic that is available today for any material or outdoor enclosure. So small things like these, which are mentioned in the standard, if it is taken care of right at the beginning, then there are very high chances that the product will go through the testing and also get certified. So following standards, right from the beginning of the design stage is very crucial. And those pre-compliance requirements, like Tapesh mentioned, mix of these two coming together will increase the probability of that certification, being, successful.
Yeah, well said, Arindam. That when it comes to safety, I think UL has got a very comprehensive safety testing capabilities, and UL will be able to help in making sure that we follow all the safety standards with respect to the medical product. As Tapesh was mentioning, like few bench testing capabilities, organization should have. We cannot be depending on big EMC test houses for when you are doing a design, because you might be required to do multiple iterations, and it could work out very expensive in terms of both time and effort and money. If you were to develop the product and every time go to an EMC testing house and do this testing, like as Tapesh was mentioning about conducted immunity and conducted emission testing, and as well the radiated immunity and radiated emission testing. Conducted immunity and conducted emission test, certain to certain extent one can build these capabilities in the lab. Need not to be to the as I think Arindam mentioned, pre-compliance. So you call it as a pre-compliance testing. It's not about whether it is meeting the standard. It's more about A/B comparison. You have a product, see how this emission is looking like in your spectrum analyzer, with respect to the design which has complied, or with the design which has gone through those certifications. So where all the emissions you are having, and how do I contain those emissions to bring it below the limits and all. So having those capabilities, in-house capabilities, really helps and reduces your design cycle time, so that when you are ready with your prototype, you have a fair chance of meeting your requirements when you go to these test houses and test your product?
Okay. Thank you. And
Answer the
The
question.
total time to market.
yes. Pardon?
Arindam?
Yeah, so I was saying, Mr. By following these steps, the total time to market kind of reduces. And I think that is one of the main, one of the important things that manufacturers look at today, or designers look at, to ensure that the products comes into the market at the earliest.
Before closing this session, final words or notes from Tapesh.
I think, sir, summarily, I'm grateful for perspective from Arindam, Vishwanath sir, from Sumir ji, and everybody. And most importantly, I think I presume most the audience comprises a lot of people who are into product development with the startups and making new products. So I'll just give an example. We often say German engineering or Japanese engineering, and with no disrespect, but Chinese engineering, we associate engineering with culture sometimes. You know, I still am looking for the exact interpretation of Indian engineering, but uh, some well-established norms are US, made in USA, German engineering, and etc. Indian engineering is actually a hybrid of lot of these aspects. But when we say that this is the engineering, what does it actually mean? It generally means that the device is working not only in its expected operational conditions, but also in worst case operational conditions. This is a very big design philosophy element we have to understand, because what happens when we make cost effective products, compliances are mandatory, because compliances, without compliances, products cannot be sold in the market. So from a compliance perspective, definitely we meet the criteria uh, when we are selling it. But from a quality perspective or from a engineering perspective, when we say that German engineering is amazing, then it often means that I was not expecting the product to work even in this condition, and yet it did. So that kind of perspective can only happen when we do lot of testing. Without testing, and we can make a lot of excellent product ideas, and there may be great products in the market, but in countries like India, we are not, or in across the world for that matter, the best technology is not to be designed for using it in best place. The best technology is designed for use in worst place. So if we are expecting that a iPhone will always be used in uh, AC temperature only, then that itself is putting some, I mean, the iPhone would be a little bit more cost effective, because its temperature specifications can be diluted. But an iPhone is iPhone not only because of its finesse, but also because it is working even under over specification limit. So I mean, as a part of engineering ethics and product quality and product company culture, it is also important to find the exact balance between cost efficiency and the quality of product, which is, because just like we are talking about this startup ecosystem and culture coming up, that also means that we are creating an undercurrent of an engineering culture. So we have to take some time to brainstorm about what exactly is the engineering culture we intend to define. And these elements, is it always about making the lowest cost product, or is it also about now have we, is it a coming of age stage where we are not only limited to lowest cost but also the other aspects of design elements? Yeah, so I think this was one point not directly related to EMI/EMC, but I think I just thought it prudent to discuss at this stage. Yeah, thank
Yeah, it's a good point, even though it's a closing point, but it's a good point that you have mentioned about cost efficiency and the quality of the product. Right, there should be a balance that the startup should look at. Okay. Over to you, Arindam.
Yeah. So, firstly, thanking all of you and for having me over. It was an amazing session. Also hearing views from Tapesh and all of you. It was really nice to have this session. And from my perspective, I always thought that startups is the backbone for any country, right? What they define, the culture of work that they bring in, the quality that is shown in products today, taking a cue from what Kapesh said, that startups form one of the integral parts of any developing nation, right? And even if you see, most of our leaders today are focusing on manufacturing in India, design in India. So that's going to be the future. So it is very important that all of us work together as an ecosystem and not in silos, right? So be it the designer, the test house, the advisory, and the ecosystem should come together, work in tandem. That is when this development will take place, right? This also means that there is a high level of discipline that is required in each of these departments, right? In terms of compliance, in terms of standardization, in terms of bringing new standards which are relevant, right? So which would mean that we would see lesser accidents. We are making sure that we are giving a much safer world for the future generations, right? So which is sustainable at the same time. So usage of those quality products, those sustainable products, while you are designing to ensure that you keep up the quality is equally important. So it is just an urge from my end that whenever you design products for all of us, please ensure that you have these small things in your mind so that whenever we look at a new product that's coming into the market from India, we would be like, wow, it's an Indian product, and we would be so grateful, and this would be the face of India moving forward, right? So we would all look forward as consumers of these products. It definitely touches us in some way or the other when we use these products either directly or indirectly. But this is what would make the nation proud, that all of us work together, bring out quality products, follow standards, regulations, and follow that discipline. That's the most important thing in today's world to compete in the global economy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arindam, for touching emotionally the final part of the presentation, right? All the certifications or what are the processes that has been set, standards. It's end of the day, it's to keep our products high in the global competitive world. Thank you. And over to you, Mr. Parmeshwaran, for your closing remarks. If you.
Yeah. Thank you, Tapesh, and Arindam, for your great presentation, and also answering the participants' question. I do share the concern that startups would require more help in terms of understanding the compliance requirements in every technology space. The technology space is getting more complex and more unique. Like EV segment is entirely different from a residential segment to that of an automotive segment and things like that. So we need to have such symposiums to share to startups on the various requirements that come up for developing various products to meet this meet the end customers requirements. On Tapesh view, I would hold us I would make a very categorical statement. A product which is designed to meet a set of requirement, no matter where it is designed, whether it is designed for China, Europe, India, or North America, it is all the same. Maybe the style could be different, the demographies are different, geographies are different, cultures are different. So product may look different in different countries. People may like to visualize the product in a different shape and size and form. But when it comes to engineering function, what is key element is the requirement, understanding the requirement, what the product is expected to meet. And very good point Tapish brought in, like, how do we design the product for 99 percentile of user? Like we need to understand if this product has to be, used by 100% of the users, how the 99th user, that's what he was meaning, like worst condition, will be using the product. And if you are able to design a product by which even the 99th percentile of the user is able to use the product, and the product gives very reliable life in the hands of customer, that's a product which is very well designed. Yeah, thank you very much, Vishwanath and Suresh, for giving us the opportunity to share our thoughts. And it's a great presentation from Arindam and Tapesh. I just joined when Arindam started presenting, and Tapesh, yes, I was able to listen to your presentation. So I think we need to connect again and see in what all ways we can help today's entrepreneurs or startups in making them aware of what are all the various requirements. Of course, though the today's topic was about EMC compliance for ESDM, but I think we all of us thought of a bigger picture, and we spoke with a bigger picture in our mind. That is so nice of all of you to have kept the bigger picture in mind and spoke very, very appropriately for all the startup entrepreneurs and the designers. I wish good luck to all the startup designers. And there are consultants who would be available, who would be helpful. Probably technology incubation centers. I happen to interact with Vellore, VIT, and similar one at PSG. More such technology incubation centers who are attached to educational institutions can help to promote awareness and can help to promote the appropriateness of these compliance processes and procedures, so that the entrepreneurs and the startup designers are able to design the product to meet the specific set of requirements and able to market their products and bring profitability to their company, and as well as wellness to the user, and the customer gets the end user gets delighted by using the products. That's the ultimate pride what we would want, as people would people would remark, products made in certain countries or are of different quality compared to products which are made in in a different set of other countries. So what we would want is today's entrepreneurs to design a product that will sell globally well, and that will bring a lot of pride and credibility for India design houses and India manufacturing hubs. Yeah, with this, I would like to conclude my remarks on the specific topic what we had been dwelling on in the past 90 minutes. Yeah, Vishwanath.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Parameshwaran, and for your points. And on behalf of the organizers, the ISBA and the Technology Development Board of the Department of Science and Technology, and CSIR and the organizing team, right, I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Tapesh, Mr. Arindam, and Mr. Parameshwaran for accepting our invitation, taking your time out amidst your busy schedule, and you are able to give insights on the EMI/EMC compliance. And also happy to see the openness and the interest in supporting the startups or the innovators who are involved in the development of products by Arindam and Tapesh. Right. Thank you very much for your support and for your time. And we look forward to your mentoring support and to your inputs for the startups in coming days and years. Thank you once again, and I also thank Mr. Parmeshwaran for joining us and moderating the session. And we look forward to an engagement with all of you in coming years through our incubation network. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. It was an honor to share our thoughts with them. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.